Hello friends, today we have a compilation video, a video of some old DIYs and some new DIYs. So watch and tell me if you can tell which of the DIYs are new this year that I did this year, or if they are the old DIYs from years past. Let's get crafting. These are the supplies that we're going to use for our first DIY. And I'm going to use some fabric and some lace and some vintage buttons from my grandma's button box. Some thread and some fabric, some rusty crusty stars, some twine, and some vintage bobbins, solid wood bobbins. I'm also going to use some canvas drop cloth. Surprise, surprise. I'm going to be making trees. So I'm going to make some triangles, and I'm using the bobbin here to sketch out the size triangle I'm going to need to fit on there. So now I'm using my ruler to make sure that I get everything all nice and triangled up. I don't want to say squared up because I'm not making a square. So I'm just going to trace it on there. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut it out. And then I'm going to take some hot glue and I'm going to glue the edges down. Just make a small bead along the edge. And I am working on my kitchen island, so you're going to see the lights reflecting off. I tried to strategically place items so that it would cover that up, but I'm going to apologize for that. So I've gotten all the sides glued down. Now the bottom, I'm creating a little spot where that bobbin is going to fit, because I'm going to glue it all down except that little hole because I want room for my bobbin. Now, if I had been smart, I would have made it a little bit bigger so that I would have had more room to stuff it, but it worked just fine. See, I ended up not having it in the center, all that measuring that I did. Anyway, I'm kind of an eyeball it and go. Now I'm going to decorate it with some of this lace. That little piece that I just first placed down was on top of this piece of lace. And someone gave this to me previously. It was something that was in my stash that someone had given me. And so you can just decorate these with all kinds of beautiful little pieces of fabric and ribbons and, you know, bits and baubles. And so I'm just going to hot glue it all down because we're not going to be washing this, or hopefully it's not going to be used. It's going to just be sitting for decor. So I'm going to trim off the excess. Make sure that it's all pressed down nicely. And then I'm going to put a little bit of chiffon ribbon, surprise, surprise, on top. And then I cut a piece of chiffon ribbon in half and made another little layer because I want layers of texture on this beautiful little tree, and you're going to see that we get that in the end. And then I took some of the strings from the canvas drop cloth. I just ripped some of the strings off, and I'm going to make several rows. I twisted and twisted and twisted them together and then glued them down and trimmed off the excess, and I'm going to make several rows of this. You're going to see. Just like so. And I'm going to make another row of it. And I think I made 3 or 4 rows of that all the way to the edges and just snip off the excess. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this beautiful crocheted ribbon that I get at the Dollar Tree, and just along that top where those little loops are, I'm just going to go in and out, just in a sewing fashion, but just in and out, up and down, up and down. And I'm going to gather it. I'm going to continue until I gather and gather and gather until it makes a little flower. We'll call it a little flower, a little medallion. It's going to make a circle in the middle if you just gather it. This is an old method that people used to use years ago, and then they would put buttons in the center. And I'm not sure why I'm showing you this entire process because it's not really a difficult process. But anyway, then I tied it off and cut it. And then I'm going to take this little vintage button and I'm just going to put some green thread through it as if we were sewing it on. And I left a tail on the end, and then I'm going to just cut some off and tie it so it'll stay on. And I'm going to grab a few little buttons. I'm trying to place them where I think they'll look cute, and I'm just laying them out, and then I'm going to hot glue them on. I'm going to hot glue all the buttons down using just a little dab of hot glue and pressing it into that canvas drop cloth. And then I'm using my little bobbin in there to make sure that I'm not pressing it down to the back side so that I'll be able to stuff it. Now I'm putting my little floral medallion, whatever you want to call it, and the button in the center. Now I'm going to take some green embroidery thread. And I'm not the best person to teach you how to do this, but I'm going to do this slip stitch around the edge of this. I love this look. It looks very vintage to me, like how they used to do that little, I don't know if I'm calling it the right thing or not, but I think it's called a slip stitch that you do, like a lot of ladies used to do this around their quilts. And so I'm going to just do it all the way around the edge of this Christmas tree and come all the way back around and leave that hole open so that I can stuff it with some polyfill. You could use the stuffing from an old pillow. You could use cotton balls. You could actually use like grocery bags. But I had this polyfill, and I'm just going to stuff it right there using my handy dandy thumb that God gave me on my body. It's just amazing the way that our bodies work and how God made all of our body parts to work together. And you realize, like I did when my hand was hurt recently, how one thing doesn't work, how it affects your whole body. And so I just am thankful this season that God made our bodies to work so wonderfully together. And I'm going to use that bobbin to go ahead and stuff that polyfill up there, and you can make it as full or not as you want. And then when I got it to the desired fullness that I wanted with the stuffing, I'm just going to take some more of that green thread and I'm going to just sew around. I'm going to sew it on one side and then pull the thread around to the other side, and a couple times I did that so that it'll stay, but you can still pull that bobbin out so it's not permanent in there. Now I'm going to just rip a couple strips of this green and white Christmas fabric, and then I have another Christmas fabric. I'm going to do the same thing. And then I love these Christmas fabrics. They are beautiful. I got them on Whatnot, the live auction site. And then I'm going to take the canvas drop cloth and I'm going to show you this. This is what I used when I twisted them earlier. So I'm just going to pull those strings, and you can just pull the strings and pull the strings, and then you have all these strings. So I'm just going to pull a bunch of them out and use them as if they were strings to be used like that. So I put them in with my fabrics, and then I'm going to just lay those fabric strips out and do them kind of in an awareness bow. Make an awareness ribbon bow and then pinch it up in the center, and then I'm going to take a piece of that green embroidery thread and tie it in a knot in the middle, cut off the excess, and then I'm going to try to figure out where I want to place it on my tree. Oh, I have a button I'm going to put in the center of it too. I was trying to see which button fit, which color I liked. So I'm fluffing it because we need to fluff our bows. And then I'm trying to decide, where do I want it? Do I want it on the top? Do I want it in the bottom? Do I want it in the middle? Let me get my bobbin right in the center. Let me get the stuffing all fluffed out just right. And then ultimately I decided to glue it right there where you see me gluing it on the lower left end. And this is what the finished product looks like. We're starting out with some canvas drop cloth cut into a triangle and using some hot glue to glue all the edges with right sides together, because we're going to turn this inside out. So I'm checking to make sure that it's going to lay flat. So I'm putting a generous amount right along the edges of the hot glue and pressing it firmly together to it. So making sure that that hot glue is going to soak into the fibers of both pieces of the drop cloth. And I do this all the way around, and then I leave a little opening right in the center in the middle, just like we did in the previous tree, like this one. In this one, I'm going to go along the inside and do just a simple sewing stitch all the way around. I want to glue it and sew it, because I want to turn this one inside out. So I'm sewing this one just like you see me doing here. Just a simple stitch. Now, you could do this on your sewing machine, or you could simply just hot glue it. And there's what the stitches look like. Now, I've turned it inside out, and then I decided, okay, did I turn it inside out? I'm turning it back right side out. I can't remember what I did. Okay, this is where I'm turning it in. I'm turning it right side out, making sure that you kind of poke your corners so that it looks like a Christmas tree and not something else. Then I decided that I was going to use some of that car cleaning rag to take up some of the space, to make the edges smoother. I don't know. I just had this bright idea that I was going to use this car cleaning rag inside. So I cut that to size, and oh, maybe I already had turned it back right side out. I don't know. But I'm gluing this to the inside, folks. This is the inside of the Christmas tree. I can't keep up with what I did. And I put one on each side. Now this is going to make it a little bit smoother and not so lumpy bumpy from the polyfill. Then I went ahead and filled it with the polyfill, and I decorated it with lots of little bits and baubles, as you will see in the final reveal. Hello, I hope you're enjoying this video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Kendra. You're watching Late Night Creations, where we like to make over old home decor, make it fresh, but we really love rustic, using scrap wood, old spindles, and just making a beautiful home decor using whatever we can and doing it on a budget. Let's get back to the video. Speaking of old spindles, here we go. This is a piece of a leg of a chair that I sanded and made into this shape, and we're going to paint it with vintage linen. The entire thing is going to get 2 coats of vintage linen. I'm going to take the Kitschy Christmas Iron Orchid Design transfer sheet and pick a couple of little transfers off of here. These 3 little girls that I think are just precious, and then this little holly garland border. I'm going to put this one around the top. I'm measuring it to see how much of it I need. I'm going to cut that off to the desired amount I need where it will look nice. And then I'm going to cut all the 3 of the little girls out. I could have just told you that I cut them out. I know you would have trusted me. Yeah, and then I'm making sure that they're going to fit on there correctly. And then I cut the other two out. These little transfers are so adorable. I get all my IOD DIY Saltwash products from Sammy over at unicorndustdesigns.com. She has thrifted items and just a lot of beautiful things over on her website. So be sure and check her out. Her link is in every description box of my videos. So I'm just going to put these transfers on this little ornament and burnish it down once it's peeled up. So I did snip the edges because this is a curved surface, so that helped. I'm going to take the little tool that comes with it. I'm going to rub it to press it into my little ornament, and then just lift that carrier sheet off gently, making sure that all of it's coming off with when I'm pulling it off. And then one little piece didn't, so I just laid it back down on there, rubbed it, and it stayed on. Then I'm going to take that and just burnish it on there. Just rub it to burnish it and get all of it on there just so beautifully. And these transfers look so beautiful on here. I'm also going to do the same thing with the border around the top of this ornament. I think I may have left so much of this in just to show you that you can put these on curved objects. That it may be take a little bit longer, but you can do it. Now I'm cutting some little snips in this because it is going around a curved surface, and I want to make sure that it's going to lay flat. So I'm going to just lay it on there and press it in and do the same thing I did with the other transfers. Just rub it in, and then gently peel the carrier sheet off and burnish it. And then I'm going to take some Sandy Blonde paint by DIY with a dry brush, and I just want this to not look like it's brand new because it looks vintage. I want it to look vintage. So I'm just going to dry brush a little bit of that Sandy Blonde around the edges where it looks like maybe it would have gotten a little dirty or a little worn from being put in the box and taken out of the box for years. I have drilled that little hole in the top. You can see where I'm going to put a little eyelet screw. I'm sealing this with clear wax by DIY, and then I'm buffing it. I'm going to put a little eyelet screw in the top of that ornament. I'm going to take some beautiful green chiffon ribbon to make a hanger. I'm going to tie a little piece right here like so, trim it off because I think that looks adorable. Let me know what you think about this ornament. I have another little piece of a spindle and the Oh Christmas Tree mold by IOD. And we're just going to use that little piece and the star for this one. And I'm going to make it out of the air dry clay by DOS. But first I'm going to paint this wood spindle piece with vintage linen. And then yes, I did that with the air dry clay. And here they are. I'm sure I just didn't get that on camera. I'm going to use some Titebond Quick and Thick to adhere them to my spindle. And I'm going to put the star down there. And I'm going to adhere these. And I'm going to just smear the glue all the way out to the edges so that it gets stuck like Chuck. So I'm going to tap it, tap it, tap it. We don't want to lose all those beautiful details in that mold, so we're being very gentle with our tapping motion. I'm going to do the same thing with the star. I'm just going to place it underneath our little greenery, And I wanted to make this look a little bit vintage too. So I used the, I believe this is Old 57 by DIY. And I painted the greenery piece this color. And then I painted the star with Queen Bee. Then I went back over the star with some metallic paint. It's an acrylic by Folk Art, I believe. And you will see me use that here shortly. And so this is how it looks. And then I'm going to take that metallic paint by Folk Art and just go over that star. It's a little bit translucent, so that's why I wanted the cake batter underneath it. Otherwise, I would have had to do like a lot of coats. So this turned out beautiful. And then on that little piece of greenery, I'm going to take some, I'm going to call this Farm Fresh. I'm not quite sure, but I believe it's Farm Fresh. And I'm going to dry brush pretty heavily the Farm Fresh over top, just to dull it down a little bit so it's not quite so bright. And then there are some little tiny berries on here. So I took some kind of pinkish red paint. I can't remember the name of this one. And I just made little dots where those berries are with the end of a paintbrush all around this. And once that was all dry, completely dry, I took some clear wax by DIY and sealed it. Got it all over there, and then I take a little piece of an old t-shirt and buff it out. I'm going to take this lace ribbon that I get at Dollar Tree. And nope, I told the story. That's not where I got this. I bought this from, I think I got this from Temu whenever they sent me some stuff for free to do a video. And then I'm going to tie a little bow at the base of it. And this little ornament will be finished. I tried a couple little different things, but I ended up doing a bow. See, I tried to do just that little knot like I did with the chiffon ribbon, but I didn't like it. So I took it off and made a regular bow. Oh, what am I doing now? Nope, didn't like that either. I end up with a bow, guys, I promise. Here, I'm going to make a bow. I'm going to just tie a little bow on there, just a regular little shoestring bow like you're tying your shoes. I'm going to just pull and snug it up and pull it and snug it up until I get it how I want it. And this is how I think it looks cute. So let me know what you think about the vintage ornaments. On our first DIY, we're going to use this little board that came out of my cousin's house when she remodeled, and she saved some of them for me. This little snowflake that I've had in my stash for a while. And these letters that I picked up at probably Walmart or maybe Hobby Lobby. You can get them in lots of places. We're going to take Prom Queen by DIY Paint, and we're just going to stipple it on, dab it on, and we're not looking for complete full coverage, just get some on there. Then we're going to take Beadboard by DIY. I get all my DIY paints from Sammy at unicorndustdesigns.com. So if you're interested in IOD or DIY products or some amazing thrifted items, then go on over there to that website. It'll be linked in my description box below. Here is the Amazing White Wax by DIY, and I'm using an old beat up chippy brush, and I'm just kind of stippling, wiping, haphazardly putting it on there to make that snowflake beautiful. Now I'm going to take Marquee, and I watered it down a little bit, which I really wish I had not done. I thought this was going to be just fantastic to do this, but yeah, I had to end up doing a lot of work to make it look like I wanted it to look. But anyway, I coated it all with that watered down marquee, and I dried it with my heat gun. Then I sanded the edges a little bit with some sandpaper, a little sanding block, and I liked the way the edges looked a little worn. Then I thought, well, I wanted it a little darker, so I took some dark wax by DIY, and in the meantime sealing it with my wax, and then it got a little much, and then I didn't like that, so I just took some marquee straight out of the bottle, the jar, and kind of dry brushed-ish it on there. And now I'm going to seal it with a big top by DIY. Oh, but I'm not through with it yet, so just hold your horses. I'm going to go ahead and glue this beautiful little snowflake right down in the middle. I'm going to put a little twine bow right over that little hole because that just gives it extra cuteness. I'm going to put some hot glue on there where it's going to adhere to the wood. This wood, I didn't do anything to it. This is its natural old state. All I did was wipe it down really good and, get all the dust off. I'm going to just make a knot. I'm going to use a little fray check. If you've never used it, it's great. It keeps the ends of your ribbons or fabric from fraying. And you can get it on Amazon. I'm pretty sure I have it linked in my Amazon storefront. We're going to make a faux knot because I didn't want to drill big, huge holes and put the ribbon through there. So we are just going to make a faux knot. So we're going to glue 2 of those to the front, 1 on each side. And then we're going to glue, first I'm going to go ahead and work on those letters just a little bit more. So I took a little bit of, this is probably beadboard or white swan. And I think it's beadboard, and I just dry brushed around the edges a little bit. Now I'm going to take that ribbon on the back side and make sure I'm lining it up with the holes on the front side. Get it the length that I want. I'm going to glue it down there. And I don't cut it yet because I want to make sure it's the length that I want. I'm not sure I showed all that on camera. But then I glued it down, cut it off, and there's our cute hanger. And there it is. Purchased this bag of awesome little wood shapes at Hobby Lobby when it was on sale for probably half price. So I picked out 4 little rectangles, and now they're not all exactly the same size, but it's okay. And I have this IOD transfer of Santa Claus and a wood chunk, a really nice big wood chunk. And I'm going to use cake batter by DIY, and I'm going to give each one of these 4 little squares a good coat, just one good coat. Like with the snowflake earlier, we don't need full coverage. We just need to get some on there. Then we're going to take crinoline by DIY and do a heavy dry brush or a super light coat, whichever way you want to say it. Because these 2 colors, I think, really looked good with that colors in that Santa transfer. And then I'm going to, what am I going to do next? Oh, I like those colors. Okay, so then we're going to take our mold by IOD, and I'm measuring to see if I need to pour 2 of them or if I can get 1, but I'm going to have to make 2. So I'm mixing part A and part B, equal parts of this aluminite casting. No, it's, I have it linked in the description box below. It is amazing resin, the 10-minute amazing resin that turns white when it's done. And I just had extra, so I poured it in these little flower molds and wanted you to see how fun it is to watch it turn white. So of course this is sped up super duper fast, but how fun is that to watch it turn white? And it works in about 10 minutes, so it does really work fast. So we're going to pull out our little mold, and I've had to make 2 of these, but I'm just showing you one of them. And I'm getting it right where the design I want it is, and I use my little, what are these called? Miter shears. And I'm going to just cut it. It works really good to cut that. And I did it while it is still a little bit soft. And I'm going to use some Tite Bond and some hot glue to glue this down. Now, I didn't feel it quite full enough, so I'm having to use quite a bit of glue so that I can make sure that it adheres good. And I'm going to do that for both pieces, one on the top and one on the bottom. Now that it's completely dry, I let it dry really good, and I'm going to take Marquee by DIY, and I'm going to not paint the back because I want some of that beautiful natural wood to still be able to be seen. But I'm going to do the sides and the front with one full coat. It covered really good. This wood, oh, it's so beautiful. And I'm using an old stiff brush. This brush is super stiff. It's not good for much else except painting molds. And it gets down in the grooves and the crevices, the little nooks and crannies, all really good. Okay, while that dries, we're going to go back to our little wood blocks. Now, I'm going to tape them all really close together on the back. So I'm going to just put some masking tape all across the back of it there. And you can see I'm going to put it up and down all around the sides so that they don't move while I'm putting Santa on them. Now, I couldn't decide if I wanted him up and down or long ways, and I kept putting it on the block of the wood we painted Marquee, or I couldn't decide. Ultimately, I went with this way because I like the way he fit on there better. So I put it down, and these transfers are so fantastic. This one transferred probably the easiest of any of them I've ever used. I probably could have just rubbed it with my finger, honestly, guys. But it just, look how smooth it came up. And it's just so beautiful how it just goes into that paint and that wood so beautifully. Now I'm going to burnish it with that sheet, and I'm going to take a little X-Acto knife, and I'm going to go in between each one of those little rectangles. And I thought I could just pop it, but no, I did have to score it a little bit. And then I just popped them open, and I'm going to remove that masking tape, take them all apart, and then I'm going to burnish the rest of that transfer down around the edges just so it's nice and smooth. And it burnished right down on there really nicely. Why did you do this, you might ask? I just thought it was a little different look, that's why. So I'm going to take Dark Wax by DIY, and I want to mostly get it on the molds just to bring out the detail in there, and look how beautiful it is. And then I'm just going to almost kind of dry brush it a little heavier around the edges, and I do it all over just to seal it. And I do later seal this entire piece with Big Top, but I did not get that on camera. I realized when I was editing that I never showed on camera that I sealed this entire piece with Big Top. I have two projects that I didn't show you that I sealed with Big Top. And then I am going to do a little light dusting of this on the back. Like I said, I really wanted you to be able to see that beautiful wood grain finish on that. And then I'm going to take my microfiber cloth and just buff it out a little bit. Now, I'm only going to use Titebond on this because I want them to be a certain way, and I want to be able to have a little bit of time to move them around a little bit. I want the same amount of space on each side, top and bottom. I want it not necessarily centered in the piece, but I want them to be, well, maybe centered. I don't know. Anyway, I want it to be kind of even. And it was almost impossible because those little rectangles are not all the same size. But I love how this piece turned out. Okay, we're going to use some little oval pieces out of that pack of wood and another chunk of this beautiful wood that my mom and I got in the dumpster dive. I will link that video in the description box below if you have not seen it. And I'm kind of getting down to the end of it. We need to go dumpster dive again. I'm going to use the Winter Adornment stamp. I bought this cheap ink pad in green, and I thought, oh, this would be pretty. I'm practicing on the back, and the IOD ink is just good. So that was down. That was thumbs down. Fell. So I flipped it over and went with my beautiful black by IOD. And I'm just lightly stamping it on there, getting it even on there. And I'm just going to stamp it down. Holding it with one hand, pressing with the other, and then switch hands so as to very carefully not move this thing. And you can see that little piece up there that did not get stamped. I'm going to use that little piece across the top right there. And then I'm going to re-ink it. And the magic of editing, and that was quick. And I'm going to put it right there and stamp it down on this wood. I did not want to paint this wood because it's so beautiful. And then I put a little extra piece across the top, and I wanted to put that extra piece somewhere, but I couldn't find a place for it to go. Now I'm painting this with, oh, what color did I use? Is it beadboard? I believe it is. I'm going to paint all of them, the sides and the front, all 4 of them. And then I take dark wax, pretty much what was just left over in my brush from earlier. And I'm just going around the edges, just around the edges, very lightly on all 4 of them. I just wanted to almost outline them, do a tiny little outline. And this is how they look. And then I took a little cloth and kind of buffed it out a little bit so that it would be a smooth surface. Then I went over to my Cricut and I cut out the letters NOEL on iron-on vinyl. Yes, iron-on wood. And then I took my little Cricut heat press and I ironed them on. I should have done them one at a time because this was definitely, you're supposed to peel it when it's warm. And so I had to go back and reheat them and re-peel because the O was great. And then I like to burnish it a little bit and press it in while it's still warm. And then when I went to do the N, it wasn't, it was too cool and I had to repress it. You can see the N looks a little wonky because I messed it up. And then I reheated the rest of them and they all worked out great. And so I just love how this looks. This turns out so cute. So I'm going to use these ribbons across the top. So I thought, but like every good crafter, I changed my mind a million times. I'm going to use wood glue and hot glue. Wood glue for the long-term hold and hot glue for the immediate hold. And line these little letters up. Oh my goodness, I love these. And this is so easy and so inexpensive to do. And I'm just in love with this big, thick. This wood is so heavy too. It was a cabinet shop, and the dumpster was out behind the cabinet shop. And so it was all that nice wood that they had thrown away and just chunks and chunks of wood. And so it's really nice wood. Okay, we've got our letters all pressed down and in place, and I made some little simple bows from this ribbon that I got at Hobby Lobby on sale, of course. You wait until it's 50% off before you go and buy it. And it's just so pretty and festive. And I'm going to glue it down. And then these little picks, my friend Leanne sent these to me. And we did a Craft Your Friend's Stash back in July, and we did a Christmas in July. But we were supposed to send each other things that were just everyday random things out of our stash, and we had to do Christmas DIYs with them. But she kind of cheated and sent me some Christmas things in mine. These cute little pine cones with glitter on them were some of the things in there. And this little bag I'm digging through is part of what I had left over from the things that she sent me. And this cute little wooden snowflake was in there, and I thought that would look cute right in the middle of that bow that looked like it was still missing something. And I did go back and clear coat this with Big Top after I remembered, I forget, and do it after embellishments a lot. Okay, our last DIY was just a last minute put together thing. I had this piece of scrap wood that I had cut several pieces of it and was just laying out on my craft cottage porch. And I had picked up these adorable little Christmas trees at Joann's. They were having 70% off, and I picked them up. They're so cute, and I thought, oh, I want to do them natural. I wanted to do something natural black and white so bad this year for Christmas, and I never got around to it, and I thought, I'm going to leave these natural on that wood, and then I changed my mind. So I got out my Avery, which has been my favorite green this season, and my Avery Green by DIY, and then a wet wipe, and just kind of doing some wet distressing and wiping it back, and I just kept painting and wiping and painting and wiping until I got the look that I was going for. I did both trees with that same method, and then I just kind of gave a messy coat around the edges because I kind of want these to look a little translucent, but not really. I don't know. You'll see in the end. This tree is so cute. I wish I would have picked up more of these. I may go back and see if they still have some. Who knows? Maybe after Christmas, unless everybody else liked them too, I can get them even cheaper. That would be amazing. But yeah, these are so very cute and feel like good quality as well. So I wiped off, and then if I wiped off too much, I went back and put a little more paint on and then just wiped it off. And then I get out my beadboard and dry brush them to pieces. Like I just really did true dry brushing, like hardly any paint on there, and just brush. And it just looks almost flocked. I love how these turned out. And then I had that little star. That little star was part of what Leanne sent me to. Leanne's channel is called Simply Enjoying Crafting. So if you've never watched her channel, you should go over and watch her. She does some really cute DIYs, and I think you'll really like her. She is a super sweet girl. We've become good YouTube buddies. I hope someday that we actually get to meet each other in person. We talk every single day on Marco Polo, and we've just become great friends. So I'm going to take Queen Bee by DIY and give this a good coat. And then I have that other little star. I have a whole ton of these. If you've watched any of my Christmas videos, you've seen me use these. And I had one left that I had painted Queen Bee. And I decided that I was going to layer this up to make it look like the trees, how they were kind of layered up like that. And then I got my little I had to clean off some of that hot glue that oozed out. And it came off really easy because I didn't let it dry. Let's dry brush it too because it's got to match. And then we're just going to glue everything down once I get it in place. And I'm sorry that this whole thing is not in camera, but this is a pretty long piece of wood. I'm thinking it's probably 20 inches or maybe 24. I don't know. It's pretty long. And so it's also a little warped because it's some old fencing that I went and picked up from a guy that goes to church with my mom. And I keep intending to send him pictures of the things that I made because he was like, I do not know why you want all this old fencing. And I was like, yes, I'll take it. So I'm just going to glue these down, and I'm trying to glue where it's going to adhere to the wood because, like I said, it is warped, so it's not flat. But that's what gives it extra character. Now I'm going to take clear wax by DIY and I'm going to seal these down. Now DIY wax is a clay-based, water-based paint, and so if you don't seal it, you take a risk of the paint being reactivated and your project being all messed up. And so I did wipe a little bit of that on that clear wax onto my wood piece. And I'm going to just take some more of that red ribbon that I'm in love with. Red, it almost looks like ticking ribbon. And I'm going to wrap it around the top and wrap it around the bottom. And then I thought I was going to put some of that I wanted to use this beautiful lace ribbon with that wood so bad, but I just couldn't make it work. And so now I'm going to just take some twine because this is one of my favorite things to do. and wrap it around there. Rappity rippity wrap, top and bottom, because we don't want one of them to feel left out. And I put a little glue right in the center there too, just, I don't know why, because I'm silly. I think it holds it a little better. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, who knows. And I'm pulling all the glue strings off. Now I'm going to make a little hanger for the back. So I'll just tie a little double knot. I'm going to put a tiny little drop of hot glue down, and then I'm going to take my staple gun, and I'm going to staple on top and bottom of the knot, just so it doesn't go anywhere. Let me get in the right place. Staple that down. And I cut it a little bit short, I think, but it'll work. It'll work just fine. So cut a knot. I don't cut a knot. Oh my word. It's late. It's late over here in Texas tonight when I'm doing this voiceover. So I'm gonna glue that down. Same as I did the other side. And then this one is done. Let me know what you think. Which one of these DIYs was your favorite today? We're going to start out with this beautiful charger I got on clearance in the fall section. And it is just absolutely beautiful color. And this is a little sign that I got at Dollar Tree. It had a bunny on it, and I just popped it off. And I tried to spray paint it white, and it didn't turn out that great. So I brought it in the house, and I'm trying to figure out what color I want to paint it. Do I want to paint it faded burlap? Maybe cake batter? No, that was really bad. Flipping through these, I don't have all my DIY paints on these little tags yet, but I do have some of my most used ones, and this is the one I really liked, and guess what color it is? You got it, beadboard. So we're going to use beadboard. I'm going to give it one good coat of beadboard. That's all it took, since I already had that spray paint base on there. I'm going to spare you all the painting details. Everyone should know how to paint. So I went over to Cricut Design Space and found this adorable nativity image, and I cut it on some everyday vinyl. And I'm just going to use my little Cricut iron to iron it on. I'm trying to think what it's called. If you have a regular iron, you can use it too. You just don't want to use any steam. Now I'm going to pull this off very slowly and gently, and you can see that it's not sticking right there. Oop, and then I got a little wrinkle, but you know what? It was very kind to me and laid right back down. That's why you should do it very carefully. Now this needs to be pulled back when it's warm, and I may have let it cool a little bit too long. So this time I'm going to be sure and get it all pulled back very slowly, but while it's still warm, and it peels off really easily. I love the way that the iron-on goes onto wood, fabric, many different types of projects, because it just adheres so nicely. So I'm going to just burnish it in a little bit with my hands just to press it in there good. And sometimes there's maybe a little bit of glue around the edges, and if you do this, it'll just go ahead and press that in. But this one didn't have any. I just did it. I love the way this looks. You can tell I'm clapping and giving it thumbs up. I really do like how this looks. Now, because this has a little bevel in the center of it, the plate doesn't really have anywhere to glue down to. It kind of slides around. So these little popsicle sticks are the perfect thickness to solve that problem. So I'm just going to simply hot glue a couple of them on the back, and then I'm going to hot glue this little wooden sign right in the middle of this charger. Look how pretty that is. But we're not done yet. We're going to add a gingham bow to the top. And I'm going to add some fray check to the ends of it. I love fray check. It keeps it from raveling. And this one was already a little raveled, and I just put it on there and pressed it down, and it just worked like a charm. Now, you really want to wait until this fray check completely dries before you start using it on your project. I'll show you why momentarily. I'm trying to find a star to put in the middle. You know, I have these little jars of stars. I've used them in several videos lately, and I'm deciding, do I want to layer it up? Do I want to just put one or the other? And as you can see, I tried several different things, and this is what I decided on. I'm going to give it one just light coat of beadboard. You can see a little bit of wood grain still through it, and I'm going to use Tite Bond to glue that to make a layered star. And I'm going to glue this little simple bow right there on top. I'm thinking I got it a little off-centered, but that fray check got on my project. Now watch what happens. I decide I'm going to scrape it off, and it peels Mary's little old head right up off of there. But no fear, I fixed it. I'm going to show you how I fix it. I don't fix it, I cover it up. But first I'm going to glue our pretty little white star right in the middle of that bow. I love how that turned out. Okay, so what I end up doing is I end up putting a little drop of glue, because I'm thinking if that little bow could just hang right down over that, just a little bit, enough to still see it, but to cover up my little boo-boo. And guess what? It works perfect. I put a little tiny dab of glue right above her little head, and then I glued that little ribbon right there to it. And then it hangs right down over the back of Joseph's back just a little bit. Perfect. Let me know what you think. I'm going to use a little bit of super glue. Well, it's Fix-All glue from Dollar Tree, and some hot glue to glue a little hanger to the back, and we are done. This precious little ornament is so simple, and it turns out so cute, and I'm totally shooting from the hip. I just got these things out, and I have no idea if it's going to work or how it's going to turn out, so you're seeing it the first time with me as I'm doing it. So I have these little wood rounds. I have a ton of them left over from some projects and some weddings and what have you, and I got one out. And I decided I wanted to put a little nativity on it. And I didn't want to do another iron-on or another, same old, same old. I was trying to do something different that I've never done before. So I got out those craft sticks and a popsicle stick, and I cut them to be our little nativity. So I did want to paint it. So, I've been loving this aviary green by DIY Paints this season. And so I'm just going to give it one coat of the aviary paint. I get my DIY paints from Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs, and it's www.unicorndustdesigns.com, and you can pop over there and find all kinds of wonderful products. So I just took this wide lace I got at Dollar Tree, and you can see I'm just kind of fiddling around with it until I get it, and then I'm like, oh, I think that looks cute. So I just hold it, and then I just stick glue everywhere I need the glue to stick. Like normally, I kind of do all this experimenting, not gluing it down, but just kind of experimenting off camera. But today I decided I'm just going to do all of it on camera, and everything just flowed. Okay, I've got a little piece of this canvas drop cloth. Surprise, surprise, I'm going to use some canvas drop cloth, and I just took a little bit of dark wax and kind of dirtied it up a little bit. Because, Mary and Joseph, they have been on the road for a while. And I made them not facing each other. Okay, no fear. I didn't glue it all the way down on the back side, so I took a little pair of scissors and just cut a little place out for his face, and then I just frayed it a little bit. I just rubbed it a little bit with my nail and just peeled off a little bit of the strings and just frayed it so it looked a little worn. Now for baby Jesus, I have this little bit of muslin cloth. And these were just some little scrap pieces I had. And it took the teeny tiniest little piece to do this. So I just glued it on there and wrapped him up in his little swaddling cloth and glued it down. And then I'm just going to glue this little family all together on this little ornament. I mean, how much easier can you get, friends? And it's so adorable. Now, I do get the stars out, but I do want to say that in Luke chapter 2 of the Bible, you can find the whole story about the birth of Jesus and why they traveled and why they weren't in their hometown when Mary had baby Jesus and the Savior. And I will tell you that I've been to Bethlehem. I've been very fortunate to get to travel over there, and some of you may have been there as well. And we went to a place that is not the birthplace of Jesus, but would have been a place where he would have been born. And it is not a wooden stable like we depict. It is actually more like a cave. So just thought I'd throw that little bit of information out there in case you didn't know that. Okay, so here I'm just adding a little piece of baker's twine, and this little DIY is done. Let me know what you think about this ornament. I think it is just precious. Yes, oh, I forgot to seal it. I always do this. Y'all, it's bad. So I'm taking Big Top by DIY and just kind of going around my embellishments to seal the paint. We always need to seal our DIY paints so that they're clay-based and they will be water activated. So if they get moisture or anything like that, all our hard work could go down the drain. So we always want to seal our DIY products. So let me know what you think about this cute little ornament. Do you love it as much as I do? Here is another very simple but very pretty. If this could be a large ornament or a small sign. I got this sign at Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to take the little string off for the hanger. I've marked previously on the back side where it needs to be cut. I'm heating it up with my heat gun so that it'll be softer and easier to cut. And it heats up pretty fast and gets soft pretty quick. And then it just snaps just like that. And I'm going to do both sides so I can make it the right size I need to fit on this little sign. Then I did take my little emery board and smooth the edges out a little bit. I'm going to take Titebond, quick and thick, and a little bit of hot glue for some immediate hold, the Titebond for the permanent hold, and just position it on there and press it down good. Then I'm going to take some masking tape and I'm going to tape that off. Now I'm just going to keep this white because this is going to be a black and white project, so it will coordinate with our first DIY we did, the plate. So I'm just going to keep this white. Now I really wanted to put some kind of wax or dry brush or something on this mold. This was a mold. This was like a leftover piece that I had, or an extra pour when I had like extra resin. It's a DIY mold. And so, but I just wanted to keep it white. I really wanted to keep it white. So here's another decal that I cut out on my Cricut. And I got this one in Design Space as well. And I'm just using the heat method again because I just really like it. I really wasn't sure how it was going to work on this little chalkboard sign, but it worked great. So then I'm going to just make a little hanger out of this little gingham ribbon, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it like this, and I ended up not. I ended up taking 2 pieces and tying them together at the top, but I'm showing you that you need to angle them, and fortunately it hadn't dried yet and I could peel it off very easily. And now you need to angle them so that they come up like that. Yes. Then I'm just going to tie that in a little knot, and voila, we are done. Here is another piece of that gorgeous wood from my dumpster dive experience, and this nativity set from Hobby Lobby that I got at least 50% off, maybe more. I can't even remember how long I've had it in my stash. Now I have these IOD stamps. They are from the Winter Adornment collection, and I'm trying to figure out which pieces I'm going to use. I'm going to stamp on this wood. I did it in a video last week, and I absolutely love the way it looks. I'm going to use Monet's Garden this week, and I'm going to use a sponge brush, and I'm just going to use the side. I'm showing you that I'm trying to get the paint just on the side. I'm going to rub it onto this little piece of paper. I end up using this piece of paper kind of like a stamp pad. I put some paint on it, and then I just kind of press my sponge into that paper. And then I'm dabbing. I've got it in fast motion, but I'm just dabbing that paint onto that stamp. And I'm working pretty fast so the paint doesn't dry, kind of going back over it. And then cleaning up the edges that might touch where I would get some paint on my project where I don't want it. I'm going to center this in the middle. And then I don't want to press too hard because I don't want it to smear. The paint can smear quite easily. And I absolutely love how this turned out. Now I'm going to do just half of it to go ahead and finish out the sides. So I'll do half on this end and then half on the other end. And I think this just looks so pretty. And we're going to put those little nativity pieces on top of that wood piece. So I'm going to give every single one of these pieces of this nativity set one coat of beadboard. And I just coat it. I didn't do a thick coat or a thin coat. I mean, it's just a coat, just one coat. And I didn't care if you could see some wood grain through, because it's supposed to look a little bit rustic. So now I've got all of them painted, front, sides, back, and I'm going to take some antique wax by Waverly. I haven't used it in a while, but I decided to get it out, and I'm going to dry brush. I'm using an old chippy brush, and I'm going to get most of it off there, and I'm doing it really, really lightly. Then I'm going to take a soft cloth and wipe it back. I don't want to wipe all of it off, but I'm just going to wipe it back. You can see that. It just kind of makes it look more a little bit like some weathered wood. So I'm going to do all the pieces like that. I'm going to do this entire little manger scene like that. Now I'm going to take cake batter on a smaller little chippy brush and do the star. Now I don't really want it to look like I did it, but I just want it to look a little bit different. I'm going to show you how I'm doing the camel. Like I'm concentrating really like I'm doing the edges, and then it's going to get on every other part. But I really want it to look like they're almost outlined. Okay, I've got them all done. Now I'm going to take the clear wax by DIY, and I'm just going to wax over this little green vine that I put on here. Then I decide I need some little red berries. So I get out my marquee by DIY and use the end of a paintbrush, and I just make a few little dots wherever I think it looks good. So it looks like little holly berries.
I think this was just what this little vine needed. Not too many, but just enough. Let me know if you would have put the berries on or if you would have left it. Okay, now to place all the pieces on top. I'm going to use the Titebond Quick and Thick and some hot glue, and it's going to be really hard for you to see what I'm doing overhead, but I'm going to try my best so that you can see. I'm going to place the manger right in the center and just put all the pieces around to make it look like a manger scene. Another fun little tip is, and you may already know this, you can leave a comment below and let me know if you knew this or not, but the wise men were not there the night Jesus was born. They came a little bit later. They were not there. So it's kind of funny that, you know, if you want to be really pedantic, you could say, oh, they don't belong at the manger scene and they're always there, but it's okay. They're important in the story of Jesus. They're important in, the whole Bible has, you can't just read the New Testament or just the Old Testament. You have to read them together to get the whole story. So here I'm placing them where I want them to be and just gluing them down. Then I'm taking the little paintbrush and wiping away the excess glue because, you know, it kind of oozes out a little bit every now and then. If you get a little too much, you just wipe it off. And thankfully it dries clear, so, you know, it's not a big mess. And I absolutely love how this turned out. You're going to have to let me know what you think. But it's simple, but I absolutely love it. We're going to get started with this little hanging house piece that I picked up at Dollar Tree. I've had it in my stash for a minute. And these adorable little star cutouts that I ordered from Shein, however you want to say it. And they were very inexpensive. They came in a lot of different sizes in one package. They were very inexpensive. Now I'm going to arrange them in the shape of a tree on this house. I'm going to take some aviary paint by DIY. I'm going to take this little sponge paint brush, which I cut the tip off of so that I could use as a dauber. And I'm just going to splash a little paint on each one of these. You're going to see me struggle a little bit at first until I got the hang of things with these tweezers. And I think in the end, I probably just ended up using my fingers as they got bigger. But these small ones, there we go again. I did finally get the hang of it. And, I did continue using the tweezers. I did finally get the hang of it and get myself in a little rhythm. And I didn't care if these were really completely coated, but they were coated pretty well. And so I got them all done, got them all in order, and then I'm going to take some Titebond Quick and Thick, surprise, surprise. And I'm going to just squirt a little bit out on my paper, use a paintbrush to put some glue on there so I have a little bit more control. I'm going to put my top piece where I want it so I can center it right there. And then I'm going to go on the bottom and start lining these stars up and just putting a little glue on the back of them and placing them where I want them to go. This is really super easy. It was really not that time consuming. I just had a YouTube video playing in the background and enjoyed the process. Now, my friend Leanne over at Simply Enjoying Crafting, and I did a collab back in the summer of Christmas in July, and we craft each other's stash, and she sent me these little embellishments, and so I'm using them in my Christmas DIYs now. picked up this little package of ornaments at Hobby Lobby when they were half price. Wow, what a buy. There's 4 of them in a package, and they are really nice. So, yeah, these didn't work so great. So I ended up getting out my miter shears to cut these. So I want to have 3 different lengths. I want them to get smaller as they go up because you got it. We're going to make a Christmas tree. Now, this is probably one of the easiest, most simple DIYs you can make, and it turns out so cute. So you just want to glue them down on your ornament, or you could do it on a piece of scrap wood. You could do it on basically anything. You could have your kids do this on with paper on a, make a Christmas card, anything. So here we go. We're going to just glue them all down. I'm trying to kind of fluff it up. Be careful on the hot glue because it will melt these little branches. I put mine a little closer together than I wanted, but anyway, now I'm going to put a star on top. These are my varieties of stars I've collected from Amazon and Shein and Dollar Tree and a lot of different places. And I'm trying to decide exactly what I want to do with these stars. So I end up deciding on this one, and I'm going to try to find just the right size that I want. And that's the size. And I'm going to take my Queen Bee paint by DIY. I'm going to daub a little bit of that Queen Bee on there because it's a great color for a gold star. Then with the paint that's left over in there, I'm just going to daub a little bit around the edges of this ornament. I thought that would look cute, and it does. You could flock that greenery on there if you wanted to. I'm going to use a little Aleene's tacky glue. And I'm going to, or Aleene's, it's probably Aleene's because there's only one L. And then I'm going to take a few of these little pit berries off the vine, and I'm going to use my little handy dandy tweezers so I don't burn my fingers, and I'm going to hot glue them randomly in the tree. We can pretend they're ornaments, or we can just pretend they're berries on the tree. It's our world. We can pretend however we want. So here we go. How easy was that? Here I have a scrap piece of 2x6, 2x4, and some rice paper that I printed out. This free printable off of Canva. I believe I got that in Canva. And I'm going to take some vintage linen, and I'm going to use this sponge applicator brush and just give this one thin coat. I don't even care if I'm getting great coverage or not. Those 2 little pieces of wood were some of those little pieces of wood from, what are those things called? Help me out here. They're slices, wood slices from Dollar Tree. They come in a little package of several in a package. I've had those in my stash for a while. I'm just going to dry this up with my heat gun, and then I'm taking DIY wax, dark wax with a chippy brush, and I don't want a lot on the front where I'm going to put my image, but I want it to be more around the edges. I don't want this to look too clean. We're going for that rustic look. And then I'm going to put it a little bit more everywhere else. And then I'm going to let it dry pretty good. Sit and dry for a little while. And then I'm going to take a soft old t-shirt and buff it out. Now for the graphic, I'm going to take a paintbrush and some water. And this rice paper is a little bit more difficult to rip than, say, tissue paper or a napkin. But it's still easy. So I'm going to take that paintbrush and put some water on it. And it has these amazing fibers in here that make it look really rough on the edges. And I love it. So I'm just pulling that off so I can get the edge where I want it. And then I do that on the top too. So I lay it down and figure out where I want that. And I just fold it where I want it. And then I wet the crease. And then I can get that good and wet. Then I can just pinch and pull it where I want that to be. And then there it is, and it's got a ragged edge, which I love. Now I'm going to give this a good even coat of Mod Podge. Now I put my Mod Podge in that little squirt bottle because I've told you guys many times that I bought in 2018, I bought a gallon of Mod Podge, and I'm still using that gallon. It has lasted me and lasted me. So I've got it in this little squirt bottle. Now that Mod Podge is completely dry, and I put my image on there, little piece of parchment paper, and my iron. You can use any iron as long as you don't use steam, and reactivate that glue. And this looks like it was made into the wood. It is perfection. It is awesome. So, and I'll kind of like loosening up those edges so they stay looking a little bit frayed. And I think this turned out so cute. Now I'm going to take this red kind of ticking ribbon. I got it Hobby Lobby on when they had their ribbon on half price. And I knew this would be great for Christmas. So I'm going to put it around the edge. I'm going to just put a little glue on the bottom there. And then I'm going to wrap it around. I'm going to use my little silicone spatula so I don't burn my fingertips. And just wrap it around there. Put a little more glue on the bottom. Press it in. And cut it off. It's so funny to me that I use my pointer finger. I have it poking out a lot. I notice other crafters do the same thing. I don't know. When you craft, do you do that? Like, I've noticed other crafters that I watch do the same thing. You'll have to watch me now. Now you'll be watching me see if I do it. But I do. Now, I've got these on Shein as well. And they're little star beads. I thought they were really cute. They're this kind of weird, I don't know what they are. They're not wood. And they're not plastic. Maybe they are plastic. I don't know what they are. But anyway, they painted up just fine. So whatever they are, they're good. So I watered down some weathered wood and some marquee by DIY. And I'm just going to wet them and then kind of dry it off a little bit. In hindsight, I probably wish I would have just dry brushed it on there, but it turns out great. Either way. So I did 3 red and 3 brown, I believe. So I'm just showing you that I just painted on there. The sides, the paint didn't take as well on the sides as it did the tops, but it's okay. It's still, you don't see the sides as much as you see the top anyway. So turns out really cute. So I was trying to decide where I was going to put these. I did string them up. I'm not sure what I show you first. I put some tape on the end of some twine. Yes, and made kind of like a needle so I could string them up. So I did them every other one, did a little pattern, and thought that I was going to put them on the end instead of ribbon on the other end. That's why I don't have ribbon on the other end of that little piece of wood right now. I thought that I was going to put those like that. See, I almost did. And then I thought, oh, let's see if it looks cute as a garland around the top or if it looks better like that. I was really debating. And so in the end, I decided to put them up at the top like a garland. So I just ran the string under those ribbons and around the back and put a little hot glue here and there to hold it. Got it like I liked it. I really wanted it to kind of swag down a little bit. And then so this sort of, in my mind, represented the stars on top of the trees. And then I'm going to use those little wood slices. They're really thick wood slices, but anyway, I do not know why I tied this on the back. Don't ask me why I do the things I do sometimes. I think I was thinking I needed a hanger, and that wouldn't really act as a hanger anyway. I don't know what I was thinking. And then I glued it down back on the back side. I don't know. Who knows? And then I end up cutting it off anyway. It's not a hanger. It's going to be a sitter. It's going to have legs on it. So I don't even know what I was thinking. I wasn't even crafting late at night this day, so I can't even use that as an excuse. This was on my day off on a Wednesday afternoon, and I did have a migraine that day. But anyway, it's okay. So now we're going to take those little, I'm going to call them little log slices, and use a little bit of our Titebond and a little bit of hot glue and put them, they're not the same size around, but they're the same height. And so I didn't mind that look at all. It helps with the rustic look. And I thought that it made it look like they were the legs or the trunks of the trees. So let me know what you think about this one. I'm lining up all my wood, my scrap wood, and I'm digging out more scrap wood. I am going to have to go to Lowe's and get one piece of wood to finish out this project. But let's get started measuring and cutting these pieces of wood to make our sled. This is the diagram I used that I got off of the website. I'm going to leave linked in the description box below. You can go to the website, get all the measurements and the instructions on how to make this sled. Okay, I've got all my boards cut. Now let the fun begin. These are not a part of this project. That is some other scrap wood for another day. But all of these, pardon the traffic noise, I apologize. These are all the pieces for our project. And we will get started sanding them and cutting all our little angles. The little angle for our sled pieces to go on the bottom, and the angled tops for the part we're going to sit on. Okay, it's a beautiful day in Texas. We finally have a few little fall colored leaves in December, and this is out my back door. This is off my back porch of the craft cottage. This is my view. Beautiful sunny day in Texas, but the wind is blowing. I have this small little table I'm working with out here on my craft cottage porch, but I'm showing you that I went ahead and kind of drew the angles of the top of the sled slats. I'm going to probably cut this one, take this piece, flip it over, and draw it on here to mirror it, and same with these two, because you can see this is a little more rounded, that's a little more flat. I like the little more rounded. You could make it completely square if you wanted to, straight. I like that to be, I'm going to have mine a little more rounded. Of course, when they're on there, they're going to be a little bit far apart, so it's not we don't need to be that pedantic about it. Okay, I've got my boards all clamped down, and we're going to go to town on this with our jigsaw. Now, this jigsaw is kind of old, and my table's kind of creaky, so we're going to do the best we can here. Here I just sketched out what I wanted the little top piece to look like. I'm going to cut this, and then I'm going to put it over here on the other end and trace it so that they match. And then when we sand it all down, it's going to look great. Okay, here's the little piece that I cut out. I'm just going to measure how far out I need to put it, or how far in, however you want to say it. So I'm measuring the end right there, and I'm going to hold my finger on there because I am not good with measurements and the numbers and all that. So I'm just going to mark that right there, and then I'm going to take that little piece that I cut out. I'm going to line it up. I'm going to put it flush with the edge, and then I'm going to trace around that piece that I cut out. Now, I already cut the end to match the other end, and I'm just going to take my jigsaw and just cut that out. Easy peasy. Now we're going to get out my handy dandy orbital sander and the sandpaper. If you're not familiar with this, the little disc just sticks right on there like Velcro. Awesome. Then I'm going to stand on my head. That's what it looks like I'm doing. And I'm just going to sand that smooth and kind of round the edges a little bit because that's how I want it to look. You do it however you want it to look if you decide to make a project similar to this. Now I'm going to take some very, very watered down vintage linen because I wanted this to have a very whitewashed look. And then I took a wet baby wipe and wiped it down and then just kept doing that process until I got the look that I wanted. Then I took some sandpaper and just sanded the edges a little bit. Not too much because you don't want to keep that whitewash look. Then I took white wax by DIY and white waxed it, which gave it even a more whitewashed look. I absolutely love how this wood turned out. I didn't want it to look painted, but I didn't really want it to look like raw wood either. So if it had been a little bit weathered, it probably would have been a little more to my liking, but I really didn't want to just leave it raw. So I really love how this turned out. Yes, you can see I'm happy about that. So I did all the pieces like that except those two long rungs that everything sits on. I do not know what those are called. If you know what those are called, if they have a name, let me know in the comments below. Watered down marquee, very watered down. I'm going to just dip the tip of my brush in the paint, put some paint on, and then use the side of the brush to kind of move it along because I want this to be very translucent. I want to be able to see that wood grain through. I want this to look like it's an old and worn and a little bit faded. I do not know what this piece of the sled is called, if it has a name. I did not grow up having a sled. It did not snow where I grew up in Texas. If it did, it was very short-lived, mostly ice, more like ice rather than snow. And so we don't have really hills or anything in Texas either, even if we did have snow to go sledding. So I'm not familiar, but this is the part that the part you sits on. This is the part that runs along the ground. So I don't know what it's called, but now I'm going to take my sandpaper and I'm going to sand it. I actually did take it out and take the orbital sander to it a little bit more, just because it was easier than doing this on my table because these are 55 inches long. So this is how tall the sled is. It's a rather large piece, but I absolutely love it. You're going to love it too. Then I moved to the floor in the craft cottage. I'm going to apologize for the angle and the lost footage. Well, it's not lost footage. My camera died because I couldn't see it up there and I didn't have it plugged in. Anyway, I just measured, drilled some pilot holes, and drilled some pilot holes in the wood. I did not drill holes in my floor. And then I just took some screws and screwed them all the way through the boards down into those rungs. I don't know what they're called. And I'm looking to see if it goes all the way through so I can match it up. And I just matched them up. And you can see that homemade Band-Aid I put on my thumb because I had a little accident, a little encounter with the screwdriver part of this drill screw gun. Because it had these screws that I picked up at Lowe's were flathead screws. I didn't even know you could buy flathead screws anymore. I was in a hurry that day and I just ran in and picked them up. So my flathead bit on here chewed my thumb up a little bit. It got in the way, and yeah, so you just see me here. I just show you one of them, and then I measure so that they're not crooked, and then I do the same thing for all three of these. And I really hope that I didn't show you all three of them. I don't think I did. Okay, there we go. And then I just laid these beautiful long pieces on top of those three rungs. And then I just, same thing, did pilot holes and screws on the top and the bottom. I didn't screw them into the middle, just the top and the bottom along there, each one of them. And this was really easy and simple. It didn't take me very long to do this. And it turns out really, really good. Now on the top piece, I think this is where my phone died, and I didn't get the footage of it. But I did take some footage of the completed project where I could explain to you what I did. But yeah, once I get this and the little top piece done, it's done. Okay, here we go. So here it's finished, but on that top piece, I think I'm going to show you where I put my little ribbon rope. I had drilled some large holes to put that ribbon through. But you can see that I put it right where I should have screwed it down to those pieces that go on the ground, whatever we're calling those. So I just put some foam knots on the top in those holes and then put the ribbon on the back. I'm trying to explain it to you here. I put the foam knot in that big huge hole that I drilled before I measured, and then I just put that behind, and it works just fine. We're not really going to take this out sledding. It's just for decoration. But I hope you love this sled as much as I loved making it. It was fun. Here's the website, and I will leave it linked in the description box as well. Let's make a little small porch leaner for our porch for the winter. I'm going to just show you the measurements of mine there. You can just pause it, rewind it, whatever. So I'm going to take this paint by Dixie Belle. I just decided to use this up. It's called Barn Red, I believe. And I'm just going to give this a coat of paint. You can see that I got this paintbrush off Shein, and it is, I've got some type of Asian writing, Chinese or something. So I gave this a good coat, front, sides, not sure I did the back, I can't remember. Now I'm going to show you how you can do this if you don't have a Cricut or a cutting machine. You just print it out on your printer, and then you do the old school method like we did back in the olden days. Just take your pencil and scribble along the back, and then just put it down on your project, and then you're just going to trace over it, and where you trace, it's going to leave those pencil marks. You also can do this with some carbon paper, some tracing paper. That works well too. So I'm just going to trace all around the letters and then go and fill it in with some paint. I decided to use a paint marker. My paint marker was not working the best, and so I regret that I used it, but I didn't know till I'd already started, so I had to finish. So I did let it snow with the paint marker, and then I ended up, here it is, the paint pen, it's a paint marker, but it just was not working great. I kept having to prime it, and I don't know, it just wasn't working great. But I suffered through and went ahead and did it because I'd already started it. So I did the whole graphic, the whole image of Let It Snow with this. And then I went in with this little snowflakes, and I traced them on with the same method. And I used a tiny little paintbrush and some beadboard paint by DIY. You can see I'm shaking the table when I'm priming that. And then I choose a different method altogether. So I used several methods to get this little sign done, and it ends up turning out so cute you would never even know that I had some struggles. But I'm showing you here that I did the same thing with the snowflake. I'm just tracing over the image. I had scribbled on the back of this one as well. And then I just took a little tiny paintbrush with some paint and just painted it on, which was fine. This worked fine. I love how these look. how they turned out. And I kept thinking to myself, well, I'm just going to sand over this and make it look rustic. So it doesn't really matter if everything's perfect, because once you sand it, it helps with that anyway. But I ended up not doing that. Then I got this white, we used to call them matte pencils. I almost called it a matte pencil, colored pencil out, and started making my marks so I could see where my marks were instead of with a pencil. And I knew I was going to paint them white. And so the white pencil was going to help. And then this was a really good quality pencil by Prismacolor that my cousin, who is an artist, decided to get rid of her pencils. She gave them to me, and this is such high quality that it was not even coming off of there. So I just decided to do the rest of this project with this pencil. Guys, it worked great. The thing I will tell you is not to use your hand to rub away the crumbs or the little pieces, because it will smear. Go ahead and that was a makeup brush that I got at Dollar Tree. I'm even going to use the pencil to do the rest of the snowflakes. So much easier. And then I did a larger snowflake. I didn't show you tracing it because, it's pretty redundant. It's just the same method, just a different image. So I'm just showing you how I just traced that out a little bit. And then I go back in and I fill in this entire snowflake, and it's just like coloring. It was so easy. And it didn't give like complete full coverage like a paint would, but I love the way it looks. I love that technique. I love everything about this. And then I just went all over and did a bunch of little snowflakes. I did some little polka dots, and just to give it a lot of different little, no snowflakes are the same. I said in a previous video when I did some snowflakes how we were all different, and God knows how many hairs are on our head. He knows all the way that all the snowflakes are different because He created it. So I'm showing you here about all my little different snowflakes, and yeah. And now I decided that I'm going to make the 1 foot a little longer, and I'm going to make the 1 larger and the 2 larger, because it's a 2 foot measuring stick for our snow. Okay, are you counting this with me? Who counted that with me? Oh boy. Okay, so I told you that I'm not good with numbers and measurements. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I realize it at the 4. Oh boy. So I think, well, it's pencil. Surely I can erase it. And guess what? The eraser on this particular pencil is a little bit different type of eraser. It's a little bit more, slick, if you will. So I was able to actually erase that off pretty good, and it did not take up the paint. So I just took a little bit of that paint and touched up, and you couldn't even tell that I made a boo-boo. And I do like to leave my little boo-boos in my DIYs. I don't leave them all because we would never get through our video, but just to let you know that, it's okay to make a boo-boo. So you can see that I'm counting and recounting and counting and recounting now because I'm a little paranoid. But I'm going back to do the 6 and 7 because I wanted to give that paint time to get good and dry. Now I'm just going to make those numbers all the way up to the top. Yep, counting again. Count and double count. I think my numbers get a little smaller as I go to the top, but it's not that noticeable. And then I'm going to make a large 2 for the 2 foot. And then I'm going to top it with some Big Top by DIY. And I had to do a really thin coat. And I think I did 2 thin coats. And be careful not to smear it because the pencil did want to smear a little bit. But let me know what you think about this little porch leaner. Okay, here's our last little winter DIY. I have these little rustic wood rounds and my stash, and I ordered these galvanized snowflake lids, the little inserts to the lids, like the mason jar lids. See, I'm showing you that it goes in the ring. I ordered them on Amazon. I will try to remember to link them in my Amazon store, and I'm going to put them on these little rings. I ordered them because I wanted to make some ornaments with them, and I thought these would make some cute little rustic ornaments. And you could use them for winter to hang on your door, on a wreath, or just about anything. So I made some holes at the top to put a piece of twine, and I mean, you can hang it however you want to. I love this method of hanging because, yeah, I don't know why. This is my method. No rhyme or reason to my methods. Just showing you how I do this. Pretty sure y'all know how to tie a knot, but here we go. Okay, so then we are going to, what are we going to do next? I believe we're going to glue the little, nope, we're going to make our bow first. So I have some little scraps of some canvas drop cloth. Would it be a video of mine without some canvas drop cloth in it? Of course not. So we're just going to take some little strips, a couple little strips, and then I have this little muslin scraps, and I'm going to cut a little couple pieces of those, and we're just going to make a teeny tiny little messy bow. I'm just going to scrunch it up in the middle with a little bit of twine, and then I'm going to make a tiny little shoestring bow to glue in the middle of that, and that we're going to call that our bow today, and it looks adorable with this project. Look how adorable that is. I should have zoomed in on that because that is so cute. Okay, then now we're going to glue everything down. I'm going to use the Fix-All adhesive that you get at Dollar Tree because it works good and it dries pretty fast. But I'm going to put some on there, and then I'm also going to put some hot glue on. And I pretty much put a lot of hot glue right underneath that lip because, you know, I wanted to make sure that it adhered good. So it did. And then just going to hot glue that little bow, and it's done. How easy. And I did 2 of them. Look at all these wonderful goodies that were in the box. I'm going to use these plus this package of napkins that my friend Anya brought me from Germany a long time ago, and I've never done anything with them. And so I'm placing it on here to see what part of the napkin I want to put on this little wooden oval plaque. And when I peeled it off, it is very translucent. You could see through it. So I decided I wanted to paint my oval wood round. So I'm looking on my little paint swatch that I made of my DIY paints, and I'm going to put this napkin on there to see which one that I liked underneath it the best, and crinoline won. And you know what? It really looks about the same as the wood itself. So I took some weathered wood and just heavily dry brushed. I just did it a little bit at a time though. So I did a little bit, and then I just kept adding until I got it the color I wanted, and I kept putting the napkin on top to see, you know, if I got enough to where it didn't look just, I didn't want it solid that dark, okay? So now I'm putting Mod Podge. I'm going to put a layer of Mod Podge on. Now, I have Mod Podge in this little container because about in probably 2018 or 19, I purchased a gallon jug of Mod Podge, and I'm still using that gallon jug. So while that was drying, I got these little snowflakes, and I took some faded burlap and some weathered wood, and I just went back and forth with a makeup sponge and just dabbed it on there till I got the colors I wanted. Now, once that Mod Podge was completely dry, I'm going to take my napkin and a piece of parchment paper and my little heat press. You could use an iron, just no steam, and that's going to reactivate that Mod Podge, and it makes for beautiful, no wrinkles, no creases, smooth like it's supposed to be on there. It just melds it into the wood almost. Now, for this beautiful rope, braided rope, I absolutely love this, and I knew exactly what I was going to do with it when I saw these two pieces. This had to be the frame for this. So I just glued it around. It stuck really nicely to this wood. And now putting it together at the very end was a little tricky. It was really hard to cut, and then it was kind of bulky. So what I did was I separated the ends a little bit, and I put one of those 3 cords toward the front and the other 2 toward the back, and then I just glued it down. You'll see. And then I'm going to put a bow there on the top anyway, so you're really not going to see that part of this piece. You can see here that I'm gluing those 2 pieces to the back, and then just put enough hot glue and just kind of mashed all that hot glue into those little strings of that are sticking out. Okay, then I just took some scrap pieces of burlap that I had, a little scrap piece of burlap ribbon here and there, my little bits and baubles. If you listen to me very often, you hear me say that. And then those beautiful burlap roses. And I'm just going to stick them all on there. And these little pine cones, I'm just going to stick them all on there however I want, however you want to put your things together like that. You know, just it's kind of eyeballing it. Put it on there. If it looks good, glue it down. If it doesn't, move it till you decide it looks good. Then I'm going to take these very neutral, I started to call them sunflowers, snowflakes, and glue them down. And I love how neutral and rustic this looks. Okay, this DIY is kind of a two-parter. I'm going to take this little plank of wood and these rub-on transfers that I'm absolutely in love with, and some decals I made on my Cricut last year that I just stuck in a box because I knew I would use them again. This rub-on transfer was so easy to use. I wish I had not cut that. I wish I had just put it in the middle and wrapped it around, because I ended up cutting little tiny strips and piecing it together. I did not show that to you, but I did. And then when I pulled it off, there was one little corner that didn't stick, and I just cut another little piece and just put it on there. And I mean, when I finished this, you cannot even tell that I pieced that together. And I did all the edges with that too. I should have just wrapped it around. Then I took some weathered wood and just did a heavy dry brush, or just a messy coat, whatever you want to call it, on the back. Now I'm just going to apply this decal to this little sign. I decided not to use the word peace. It didn't fit. I didn't like the way it looked. So I'm just going to use this little nativity decal right in the center. And it's just very simple, but says the message of Christmas and what Christmas is really all about. It was about the birth of Christ. And then I'm going to take some twine and I'm going to wrap it around each end of this, and at the end make the hanger with it. So I'm going to have Leanne's video linked in the description box below. We decided to do this collab together. We are friends, and we became friends through YouTube, and we talk to each other almost every day, and she is just a sweetheart. So go over to her channel, or go and watch her video, and then go to her channel and check out her other videos. Okay, here's part 2. This is a little wooden something I got at Home Depot a while back, and then I have a spindle, and then this little sticker that I had in my stash. I just took the little sticky off the back, and I'm going to use that to make a flat surface for this spindle to stand on. And then I had that little, I don't know if you want to call it a knob or a half ball or whatever in my stash, and a little eye hook that we're going to open up and use for a hook. Now I cut a little skewer down and put it in those holes that were already in there, and some glue, and I'm going to put some tape on it to hold it until it dries, and that'll just give it a little extra added security. And then I'm going to put some of that Titebond on that little wooden disc, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other end with the little skewer. And those holes, that spindle already had holes in it for some reason. Okay, I did not get on camera, but I painted this with Waverly's chalk paint in black. Now I'm taking Beadboard by DIY, and I'm going to dry brush. I'm going to do a heavy dry brush. I start out pretty light. I just go back over it and over it till I get it the level that I want. Actually, on that bottom, that's about the level that I wanted. But on the top of it, I just kept doing it until it's how much I want on there. I didn't want it to look too white, and I didn't want to use the white wax because that would make it look too gray, in my opinion. And then I'm going to clear wax the whole thing because we need to seal it. And I just love the way that the clear wax looks. So I'm applying it with a brush so I can get down in all those little nooks and crannies and crevices. And then I'm going to take my old piece of t-shirt and buff it out so that it's all nice and smooth and evenly distributed pretty much. And then I'm going to take my drill, and this little thing was so difficult to drill a hole in, but I just wanted to get it started so I could put that little eye screw in there for a hook, for my hook. And I worked and worked until I finally got it done, and then screwed that little, it's an eye hook that I opened up to have a hook because I didn't have a hook. And then we're going to just hang that little plaque right on there. I think this will be so cute to hang mini wreaths on or mini signs. It is so cute.
This is the inspiration piece for my next DIY. I was inspired by Sammy from Unicorn Dust Designs. She is an amazing creator. She has a beautiful website. She has lots of things for sale on her website. So be sure and check out her YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed. Couldn't imagine if you're not, but if you're not, be sure to check her out and all the beautiful things that she makes over there. And she loves the rustic stuff like I do. So let's get started and see if I can recreate this church. So I have these old pieces of the swing set that blew over, and we saved the wood from it. And I've sanded them down and cut them to shape. And now I am just painting them with some sloppy coats of some white chalk paint. I'm pretty sure this is Beadboard by DIY. I'm guessing. If I'm guessing. Or it could be Rust-Oleum white. Now on these top pieces, I'm just kind of stippling it on there so that it looks like a little bit of maybe some snowy, frosty parts to the top. Sammy had done that on hers, and I liked that look, so I'm trying to recreate that. So I'm going to do that on. So that first piece was the bottom piece. These are the three pieces that actually are the like the steeple in the church rooftops. So you can see that I'm just going to give it just a messy coat. I don't want a lot of coverage, just a little light dusting with a very dry brush. Putting those two together because those are going to be together. Now I'm using the wood glue from Dollar Tree. It works really nicely. And I'm going to put a generous amount here, and then I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue at the top and the bottom for a quick hold until that wood glue sets up. And then I'm marking where that is going to sit so I don't put glue too far up. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to smear my glue around, and then I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue on there as well. And place those 2 boards on top of that 1 board. You can just see what I'm doing. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then I'm going to make a little doorway. I just kind of free-handed that little doorway on there. It's pretty simple. And just painting that on there with a little bit of white paint. And then I'm going to put one up on top. Now, I do cover this up, so it wasn't completely necessary. But if I ever want to change out that little wreath for a different holiday, because I could use this year-round, then I could do that too. So I'm going to take a couple little pieces of an old Christmas garland and twist it together to form a little wreath. Just twist the ends together to form a little wreath. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a haircut because that greenery was just a little bit wild. So we're just going to give it a little bit of a haircut. And then we'll take the desktop vacuum and clean all that up. And then we're just going to use some hot glue to hold that down. Put a little twine bow up on top. And there's some little berries laying there. Let's see if we add them to it. These little silicone spatulas are fantastic to keep from burning your fingers with hot glue. Yep, we're going to add a couple of those little berries from a little berry pick I had. And a little trick, if you have some berries that the paint has come off, you can just dab a little extra paint on there. Just like I'm doing right there. Just take your little red paint and just dab it on there. Touch it up. I think this turned out fantastically cute. Then I'm going to just put some of that wood glue on the bottom here with a little bit of hot glue, wood glue. Not real sure what I'm saying here, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to glue that down and it's done. How simple was that? Okay, my next inspiration came from Wendy over at White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. She is such a beautiful person, and she does beautiful inspired DIYs. So go over and check her out if you don't know about her. So I had these old flooring planks that I got off the side of the road, and I just took them out and cut them with the peaks. And I'm going to take some white paint, and I'm going to do a heavy dry brush, pretty heavy dry brush. Now, I'll just give you a little cheat and tell you that this is an old DIY, but I still am using this in my decor. And I'm going to do another one with some black paint that I'm just going to do a heavy dry brush. So I'm just heavy dry brushing this. Now I have 2 white ones and 1 black one. I'm going to take the opposite color and do the doorway. I think that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to make a tall doorway, a tall skinny doorway. I'm going to make it a little bit rounded on top, but I'm just going to make a tall skinny doorway. So I'm going to do black on the white and white on the black. Very simple, just simple. Making it simple. Keep it simple. Now, to keep these sturdy on the back, I'm going to use some paint stir sticks with some wood glue and some hot glue, just so that they stay sturdy, because they are a little bit thin, and I just want to make sure that they stay together good. I did glue them together, but I want to make sure they stay together good. Now, these are some garland ties that I got at Dollar Tree. You can get them, I think, at Walmart and Hobby Lobby as well. And I'm just going to make a little wreath for the top of each little church and a little bow for each wreath. And I thought the little black and white baker's twine was a perfect little touch, since we have a little black and white theme going on here. And all we need to do is glue everything down and secure it on there with some hot glue. And then you're going to see some little wooden crosses over there to the right. We're going to do something with those too, so stay tuned. Okay, so here we go. We've got all of our little wreaths glued down. Now these little crosses, I get these in a pack at Hobby Lobby, and there's a lot of them in there for one price. And if you catch them when they're on sale, they're very affordable. So we're going to do 2 black and 1 white because we're going to put the opposite color on, you know, the contrasting color. We're just going to hot glue them right up there to the top. And then I had these decor pieces that you can get at Dollar Tree. And I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to place them. And you have to be careful with this hot glue and this metal because, you know, it does get hot. So I'm using my little silicone spatula, and I'm going to put those words right on there. Now I've got some little sawtooth hangers, and I'm just going to, the kind that I have, you just hammer in, and I'm going to put those on. Now, I use mine as a leaner, but I definitely could hang it on the wall. Okay, my last one of the churches was inspired by Leah at Junkernecker. I haven't seen her post anything for quite a while, but go ahead and go over and watch some of her videos and give her some love. So I had this, all of this was scrap wood out in my shop, and I just went out and cut the little rooftops and the little pieces all the size I need. And I have this little tiny miter saw with this little 2-inch blade that comes in super handy. And you can get these on Amazon, and they work so good for little small items, and I can just cut them in my craft cottage. I don't have to go out to the shop. So yeah, I did that for the little rooftop on here. So I'm going to paint it a solid color. I'm not sure what I'm using. This almost looks like a white swan. And then maybe some faded burlap to distress it a little bit. I'm actually redoing this voiceover from the original video because the sound quality was so terrible. So it's been a couple years since I made this, so I'm really trying to remember what I did. And then I'm taking some dark wax. This looks like dark wax by DIY. And I'm going to make the rooftops. I'm just going to seal them up with some DIY wax or darken them up. This is going to be the rooftop. All the little rooftops. Going to get a coat of DIY dark wax. I sold this little church in my craft booth, and I really wish I would have saved it because I really liked it. Okay, now we're going to take some Mod Podge, and we're going to make sure we get it all the way out to the edges. And we're going to do a nice, even coat. Not too much, not too thick, not too thin. When it's completely dry, we are going to take this parchment looking paper that I got off Amazon, and we're going to get a free printable of some Christmas music. I chose Oh Holy Night, and we're going to trace out what we want on the church. Going to cut it out, and then we are going to iron it on. We're going to use the iron-on method. And I'm going to use my little mini iron. You could use a household iron with no steam. It will work just as good. And I'm just going to press that down using some firm pressure and the heat. And that's going to reactivate that glue and get no wrinkles, no bumps, no wrinkles. I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and trim all the excess off. And then I'm going to take a little sanding block and just smooth it down and get all the little itsy bitsy pieces off so that it's all nice and smooth. I'm going to take the wood glue from Dollar Tree and a little bit of hot glue and glue our little rooftop pieces on there. Look how cute this is looking. And I smoothed that out so that it, we would get some good adhesion. And then I put that other little block in front, glued it to the front. I'm using some brown paint to dry brush around the edges because I want to give it a little bit of a worn look. I'm going to paint a little doorway. I'm going to use that stick as a guide. I'm going to just paint a little doorway. Just simple, very simple to do. Then we're going to glue the little front piece down to the back piece. This was so simple, but so cute. So easy to do. And then we are going to take two of these, kind of twist them together to make a little bit of a thicker wreath. And we're going to just put a little bow out of some, that looks like embroidery thread. Glue that. When you don't want a real thick, like twine, you can always use embroidery thread. It makes nice little thin skinny bows, petite bows. And we're just going to hot glue that little wreath to the top of our little church and make it a Christmas church, and it is done. Let me know what you think. These spindle ornaments were inspired by Sammy at Unicorn Dust Designs as well. I had this old piece off of a chair. This was the chair back that I had cut up, and I thought it would make a beautiful ornament. It's rather large, but it is beautiful. So I used Waverly black chalk paint, and I gave this thing one beautiful coat front and back. And then once I finished that, this was so simple, y'all. This is so simple, but so beautiful and so elegant. And so once I did that and it was completely dry, I took some gold gilding wax and I just dabbed it on in a few places. Just gave it some little highlights with that gilding wax. I think it's so pretty. That black and that gold, it just looks so pretty together. Did some around the top, some around the bottom. I mean, you could do as much or as little as you want. And then I took a little eyelet screw, put it in the end. I always drill a little pilot hole first, and then it's much easier to screw in. And then I was trying to decide if I wanted red or gold or what color of ribbon I want to hang it with. And ultimately I chose, pretty sure I chose the gold. Let's see. Like I said, it's been a minute since I did this. Yes, I did choose the gold. And then did a little bow. We're going to glue it down at the base of that. And so cute. Little bow, so cute. This is so beautiful. Let me know what you think about this one. This was also inspired by Sammy. And so I had these little pieces of spindles in my stash that I had cut, and so I'm going to paint them with some red chalk paint. I think this was a Dixie Belle chalk paint. I'm not real sure. I did have a hard freeze, and a lot of my paints were destroyed a couple years ago, so I'm not even real sure what that was one of them that got ruined, so I'm not real sure what it was. So anyway, I painted both of these with this red, and I'm pretty sure it got really good coverage. And then I'm going to take this dark wax and put it in the crevices of this spindle. Looks like I'm just putting it in the crevices because maybe I didn't want to really darken it up too much, but I did want it to look dark in the crevices. Because if you smear that all over the whole candlestick, I'm calling it a candlestick, if I did that, then it would kind of darken the red, and I really didn't want that. So now I'm taking a little bit of the white wax, and just kind of highlighting it with that. And just in a few places where I want it. Now wipe it off, buff it back, seal it in good. Just like so, till I get it the way that I want it to look. Then I need to, what am I doing now? Okay, let's maybe dry brush them a little bit. And then we're going to drill some little holes in the top, and we're going to take these little white bottle brush trees from Dollar Tree and just simply stick them in there, and we're done. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, a big thank you. Thank you very much. Be sure that you give it a thumbs up. That really helps out the algorithm and sends it out to more people, gets it more noticed and sends it out to more people, and it helps my channel. Also, be sure to leave me a comment and let me know if you could tell which one of the DIYs was from this year or from years past. I want to take this time to thank all of you for always being so encouraging in the comments and leaving me all the sweet, kind comments. I really do appreciate them. But most of all, I want you to remember to be still and know that He is God.